This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to Service Management's Basic Navigation Training. To start with Service Management, you'll be provided a URL that'll be specific for your domain, and you would put that in the URL bar. Then you're going to come to a welcome page, which is you're going to be provided a user ID. I'm going to use Mickey, and a password. All right, so once you just log in, it's going to open up the software. Now you're going to see three panes. You're going to see the main menu pane on the left-hand side, and you're going to see the top pane here, which we call the query pane, and the detail pane. Based upon which function you pick, will populate the query in the main menu pane. Let's first talk about the icons at the top of the main menu. It's fairly straightforward. Your log off key, if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it does. This is how you log on and off the software. You can, if you log off correctly with the log off key, it's going to release everything for you. If you log off, if you just close down the browser, it may not shut everything down and you may get a locked record. So just always remember to, when you log off the software, to log off with log off key. When you log off, it simply says, you want to log off? Yes, I do. It releases everything, and then it brings you back to the login page. I'm going to log back in. And then I'm back at the main menu. The other icons at the top, this allows you to be able to open, if you click on things, it opens them up in a new window. So you might want to work on more than one thing at a time. And that's fine, you can use that. To turn it on, you just simply turn it on, and then as you click on things, it's going to open them up in new windows instead of just switching from window to window. To turn it back off, you turn it back off. The email feature just opens up an email window. Most people use their email client, so you won't use this very often, but it's there for you. The plus and the minus signs allow you to be able to expand the main menu or collapse the main menu. All right, so I'm going to show you now how to navigate to a particular type of document. A very popular one is our work orders. Once I go to the work orders, I click on the work order screen, and I now get the query for the work order. You'll notice the work order number here, and you'll see the detail pane for the work order. Let's talk about the icons up on the top. You'll see these grayed out icons will become active when we run a query. The lightning bolt, if you run over top of it, you'll see that it says it's for running the query. All right, if I hit the lightning bolt, it's going to populate the query. As you can see, I've got page 1 of 3. There's 72 records in this particular query. Okay, you'll also notice that these icons that were grayed out before now appear. I can go to the next page, which obviously just takes you to page 2 of the query, or I can go all the way to the end, and now you see these other ones. I can go back, have now been activated. Again, as I hover over these icons, they tell you what they do. The next thing I can do is I can start to use the query. Right now it's wide open, there's no filters on it, but as you can see, you've got many different filter options in this query. So for example, if I wanted to say, I want one of the shop ID that contains a G, you notice I can also select different options. And I want consumer name that starts with an N, and let's see what that does for us. I now only have 6 records, so you can see that it cleared out a lot of them for me. I can further add additional filters on here if I want, until I get to what I'm looking for. Okay, now the filters are in there, and of course I could delete these manual filters, but we also created a button for you to do that for you. So instead of me having to delete the N and delete the G, and I may, by the way, have a filter over here that I can't even see, what you can do is you can click these green arrows here, and what it does is it resets all your filters. So you'll see it took the G and the N out for me, and now when I run the query, it runs it wide open. Okay, the red arrows do a restore to default settings. You have the ability to obviously move some of these things around. You can put some queries in there. For example, I might want to have the customer name. I can just drag and drop it, and I might want to put the job type next to the customer. When I hit the lightning bolt, it saves that setting to my user profile. So I can have a different query setting than anybody else can have. Now, if I wanted to go back to system defaults, that's what these red arrows do. They take you back to restore defaults. on that setting. This icon allows you to copy information to a clipboard, which we'll cover in a few minutes here. And then this button here allows you to be able to select specific rows. So if I wanted to delete one of these 2 work orders out of here, I now have those 2 selected. I can delete these and it'll delete those 2 work orders out of there. Okay, this concerns a lot of people being able to delete records. These icons can be controlled by admin access and controlled by each user group. So you can turn on or turn off these features if you don't want to use them. Okay, I don't really want to delete those, so I'm just going to unselect them. Okay, and now you have the next box, which is this includes box. And what this does is you'll notice that there's a lot of fields in this query. If I scroll to the right, you can see I've got a large number of different fields that I can query on. Well, to move these around, it's pretty easy, right? I can just simply drag and drop. However, if I happen to have a field that I want that's way over to here, it's pretty hard to drag and drop. You have to keep moving it from left to right in order to be able to do that. But what I can do is I can use this includes button, and it gives you a list of all the fields in the exact order that you see them on the screen. So I can scroll all the way down to the last field in there and say I want custom field number 6807. I click and hold on it, and I'll drag that into the gray bar. I don't want to drag it down low because it won't go right. It has to be in the gray bar. Once I let it go, you'll see that custom field 607 is now there, and then I can fine tune it from here. I can move it over if I want to be over that direction. I can also put it back, so I can put this back into the list, so I can go in the reverse direction. So it gives you a lot of functionality in terms of being able to manage these queries. Now, what I can also do with these queries is I usually tell people to just put all the fields that you want to the left and just leave all the ones that you don't use as often to the right. However, I can also hide a field. Let's say I never want to see job type. So I can come here and I can go scroll back up to the top of my list. I can unselect job type. I can hit my lightning bolt, and you can see job type no longer appears in your query. And so you can do that for a number of these fields, or for almost all of them. All right, and then if I want to bring it back, I just simply reselect it, hit the lightning bolt again, and job type reappears. I can also make these columns thinner and wider if I want to, so I can see the kind of data that I'm looking for. All right, now we talked a little bit about the filters. You can see I've got different types of filters I can use to select from, and then I also have date ranges. So this is if I'm looking for something, I want to look for the month of February. So I go from February 1st, and I want to see through February 28th. And so if you see it up in a upper and lower field, you can actually put both values in there. If I don't put a value in the lower field, this means I want to see everything from 2/1 to today. And so that's a really handy way of just saying I want to see, for this last month. I don't have to put the bottom date in there if I don't want to cut it off. Now, of course, this will get me all of February. If I did this in January, give me all of January and all of February. Okay, so that's those. And once I find what I'm looking for in the query, now I can start to look at what I'm going to do next, which is I'm going to look at the actual record. And so, for example, I have this particular record open. You'll notice I'm turning it blue. And when I turn it blue, it loads it in the detail pane down below. Or I can select a different record and it loads it here. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about the detail pane. There's one more icon actually up here in the query pane I didn't talk about. If I'm doing a lot of work in just querying documents and I want to maximize the real estate that I have up here, I'm not really using the main menu over here. I'm not using the detail pane. I'm just using the query. I have another icon here that allows me to be able to expand it, and now I can use the real estate to do that. All right, I can also get rid of the main menu, but these two icons, these two little arrows, this one's pointing to the left, this one's pointing to the right. If I click on the one that's pointing, you notice I got the finger. You always want to get the finger to make these work properly. And then you put, now I've really maximized my real estate. To bring it back, it's a little hard to see, but you see right here, there's a little arrow. I just bring back the main menu. And for me to bring this back to upper and lower, I just simply click on the icon there. You'll also notice that just like the vertical bar has the arrows to the left and right, the bar in the middle also has it. So you have the option of using this feature, which collapses it completely, or you might want to just drag and only bring it up a little bit so you can see it. Or you can use these little icons in addition to that. Again, we want to get to the finger. Now I got to the finger, and once I get to the finger, I can actually click that and bring it down. All right, and then of course you see the little arrow up here again, and I can maximize the real estate. I want to get to the finger, and then I can bring it back. All right, so now we're going to move to the detail pane, and I am going to maximize the detail pane in the same way. So now you see the detail pane took the place of the query, and I can see much more information on the actual work order. All right, let's talk about the icons first. So if I want to create a brand new work order, that's the first icon. And what that does is sets a brand new work order number to it. If I click it, you'll notice that now I have 496. So now I'm working with a brand new work order. These other icons are for children work order. We'll talk about these later as a more advanced conversation. This is your save icon. I've now created the work order and I might want to save it. So when I click the save button, it's just going to save that work order, and so you have it saved. All right, the X, the red X means I don't want this work order anymore. I'm going to delete it. So when I click on the red X, it deletes the entire work order. Again, probably something you want to lock down from a security standpoint, so not everybody's deleting work orders because they might do it on accident. Refresh the page just means I'm going to refresh the work order screen on there. A copy feature allows you to be able to take a work order and copy it. So say I'm creating one work order and I got a lot of information. Maybe I have 3 work orders I'm going to create for the same customer. I create one work order for the customer, I copy it, and all I have to do is change the task I'm going to do on the second work order, so I don't have to rekey everything. So the copy feature is really handy. The import template allows you to pull in a template of a work order. It's a fast way of being able to do reduce number of keying you're doing as well. Just like over on this side where you had an email option, there's an email button here as well. Again, not really used if you're going to use your email client most of the time, but it can open up an email window for you. This icon is a knowledge base. What this does is it opens up a knowledge base for you to go searching for based upon symptom problem resolution. And so it allows you to be able to get to those, seeing if somebody solved this problem before that you're seeing with this particular customer. Related documents just tells you if another document's related to this. Like maybe you had an RMA that started off and then it turned into a work order. Maybe you had a quote that turned into a work order. These related documents will allow you to be able to look at the relationship between those documents. That'll make more sense as you get further into actually building these different documents. Now, as you're on there's a number of actions you can take on a work order. So you can see, and these are controlled by access groups. You can remove these or leave them. But you can create a customer claim from a work order. You can create a vendor claim. You can submit a custom order to your ERP system. You can submit a credit memo to your ERP system. You can create a quote, RMA, shipment, create material transfer order. A lot of different things you can do in a work order depending on your workflow. Okay. All right, so that's the menu options. Now let's talk about the document itself. As you can see, there's multiple tabs that can be used on a document. You got the general tab, the customer tab, the entities tab, etc. These tabs are all controlled by Access Group as well. You don't have to show all of these tabs if you don't use them. And so we can set them up so you can just see the tabs that are relevant. For example, you may not use the services tab, so we'll just hide that tab so you don't have to worry about it. All right, now you might say that, well, I'm going to use a general tab, but I don't want to see all of these fields. So we have also field level access control that allows us to hide any fields that you don't use. And so we have a lot of fields to pick from to be able to support your workflow process. And then you can pick the fields that you're going to use, and then we'll hide the rest of them so that we can remove clutter for the users and not just have a bunch of blank fields out there. Okay. Now, as you navigate from tab to tab, you're also going to notice that this icon bar at the top is going to change. So if I go to the customer tab, you'll notice I got a couple additional icons on here. So depending on what you're trying to do with what tab you're on, you may have different functionality that supports this. For example, this one allows you to be able to say, I'm going to type the information in and I'm going to create a new customer with the information. Or I'm putting additional information in, I'm going to update the customer information. So that's why, of course, that's relevant for the customer tab, but wouldn't be relevant for the general tab. All right, then we get to tabs like the entities tab. You'll notice that it's blank, right? So what we have to do is we first have to create an entity on this page. And so you notice that another icon came up in terms of a blue triangle with the yellow starburst. Hovering over it says add an entity. What this allows you to do is it puts the entity information in there for you. Okay, and so now you have an entity on here, and you can select your entity, which we'll get to later in terms of how to do that. But this allows you to be able to do that work. When you see a 3-dot box here, that's a lookup. Allows you to look up, this particular product, for example, in the product master file. Okay, and then kind of the same thing happens as you go through. You notice you don't have much in the symptom problem resolution. Pretty much the icons are the same. But it allows you to be able to put a symptom, a problem in a resolution. This is what drives your knowledge base. So once I create a work order and I have a symptom from a customer, I have a problem and I have a resolution, I close the work order, it writes it to the knowledge base so somebody else that has that same symptom can go look for that symptom and see what the problem and resolution was from a previous solution. All right, and then on a work order, you can also establish different steps. You'll notice the same icon to add a step is a blue. So anytime you're trying to add a record to a work order, I simply click the blue triangle and you'll see it added a step. Allows me to be able to identify, I want you to change the oil and I want you to rotate the tires. So I have 2 steps I might have to do on that particular work order. Employees tab allows you to be able to schedule an employee. All right, and this allows you to be able to take an employee from your list, maybe by a particular skill, and you say, okay, I want Joe Crow, what's his schedule look like? It looks like he's pretty wide open, doesn't have anything scheduled. I can select the day that I want him to schedule him on, and I'm off and running. All right, I can also have a link to his calendar so I can see what his calendar looks like once I have this work order assigned to him. To assign it, it's pretty straightforward. You just simply put a date scheduled and a scheduled end date for him to go do the work. Once he's in the field or he's working in the shop and he captures his labor, this is where we add the labor. Again, a blue triangle. You can also use assign from the assign tab or the steps tab, and you add a line of labor, and that allows you to put the labor that that person used on that particular job. Stock parts is just like it says. I may want to add parts when I work on this work order. This allows you to be able to use a lookup to find the part that you used on that particular repair and add it to the work order. Non-stock parts are very similar. They're parts that are part of your ERP system. You just don't stock them. Expenses actually applies if you're using the work order for a field service work order and you're capturing things like hotel expenses, other types of expenses. You may even have a service technician that goes out in the field, has to go buy a clamp or something from a hardware store to finish the work. Again, the blue triangle allows you to be able to add those to the work order. Services is a lot of times including things, let's say to go rent a lift. And so you put some add-on services that you might end up having to go do and that you may want to charge a customer for. Components allows you to be able to do things like add, if you have a car and the component is the transmission, or a car and the component is the engine. And so it allows you to be able to capture the different levels of a particular product that you might have if it's larger products that you're working on. Notes tab, again, the blue triangle allows you to be able to add notes. Simply add a note, and now you have a place to capture it. You can put 2,000 characters per note. If I want to put another note, I can put as many as I want in here. And now I have a lot of space to put additional notes to help support this work order. The Assign tab is really used to assign this to different users. So if you assign it to a user, now they can see it in their list or in their inbox that it's assigned to. The Assigned is also used for our mobile SM solution. It allows the user to see their work order on a mobile device application and not just here in what we call the base software. Comments, if we didn't have enough fields already, are just additional areas that you can capture information. Again, sometimes we'll just use notes and we'll hide the comments tab, but they are available to you if you want to capture some additional fields. Attachments is a big deal. It allows you to be able to attach before and after pictures. Maybe you're doing scanning something or some documentation. It allows you to be able to capture those attachments. Simply clicking on the blue triangle or the blue square will open up your Explorer to be able to pull information in and select whatever you want and put it in as an attachment. Other work order fields are just a place for if we need a place to put some additional data. We have a bunch of these fields. If we use them, we'll keep them. You can rename these fields to something else, or we simply hide the whole tab if you're not going to use them. Forms tab are really handy. These are where you'd go and print, once you're done with the work order, you might have a customized form. And in this case, you may have there's a pick list. This is a detail of the work order. Obviously, we can format it to the way you want it to look, and then you can put your logo on it and customize it, and you have your form. Okay. And then when you're done with the work order, you typically come in here and you change the status. You can control the status, and then once you're complete, you can close the work order. All right, so that's basic navigation in terms of how you get through the software. Other sessions will go a little deeper into actually creating a work order and working with it more, but that's your basic navigation.